Today is Sunday, March 15th. It's about 11:15. Temperature's 42 degrees. It's finally stopped raining. So I thought I'd come out and shoot a quick video. You can tell that the plants in the cloche have just been growing like crazy with the warmer weather. It is supposed to freeze tonight, so I'll close up the cloche before the day is over. I transplanted in some Japanese giant red mustard about a week ago. Plants look like they're doing pretty good. And here's one here. And here's one here. And here's a Swiss chard that I put in. Here's another one here. I also put in a row of mustard under the row cover where I had some kale growing. And these plants look like they're doing well. In my last video, I shared the 5 essentials of growing in winter. Today I'd like to talk about some lessons I learned about having a winter garden. The first one is, in Maryland here, it freezes for a few days, the ground freezes, and then it thaws out. Sometimes it stays frozen for a couple of weeks, and then it thaws out. But it thaws out from the top down. When you walk on the ground, it just becomes mud. The grass rips loose, and you end up with a very muddy yard. So the way to combat that for us has been to use wood chips. We've been putting down a layer of wood chips in all our garden paths, and that keeps the mud down. So we'll be mulching around all of our garden beds this year with wood chips. The second lesson from my winter garden is just how much damage the wildlife does in this area. We had a deer in here yesterday morning eating along the edges and also eating a lot of the herbs in the herb garden. We do open up onto an open park area behind our property, so the animals come in. We've had deer, groundhog, squirrels, rats, mice, chipmunks, rabbits, possums, maybe a raccoon or two. And what I found from my winter garden is growing under cover, you don't get any animal damage to your crops. And it makes the growing so much more successful that this year we'll be covering all of our garden beds with wire mesh to keep the animals out. I'm not too worried about the animals getting food. They can eat a lot of plants that we can't eat, so they're welcome to go eat those. The stuff that I grow in my garden is for myself and my family, and we can't eat just anything out here, so they're gonna have to find their own food. The third lesson has to do with insects and diseases. There aren't any insects out here during the winter. That means there's no pollinators, but there are also no aphids, no squash bugs, none of the pests that we normally have problems with. If you look here, you can see some leaf damage on my bok choy that was caused by slugs early in the season. But once I finished picking out the slugs from the garden, you can see the new leaves are coming in without any damage, and the slugs don't seem to be able to reproduce during the winter, so once you get rid of the ones that are here, you won't have problems with them for the rest of the winter. And as far as plant diseases are concerned, we really haven't seen anything other than the problem I mentioned in my last video about the plants rotting if they don't dry out. So it's important to keep your winter garden ventilated so that the plants don't stay wet all the time. The fourth lesson has to do with plant growth rates. In the winter, the plants grow much slower, and between Christmas and the middle of February, they don't really grow at all. So if you want to be able to harvest all winter, you need to plant a lot more plants than you normally would need, so that you can harvest some and still have enough plants to keep growing over the winter. You can see this lettuce is doing really well now. The weather is warmer. The leaves are big. They're crispy, tender. So we're really enjoying these. But to supplement the lettuce that we grew over the winter, I also grew some lettuce inside in the arrow garden. It's a romaine type lettuce. I grew 6 heads of that, and we picked lettuce off of those plants during the winter also. I won't say it was enough for us to eat all the lettuce we wanted over the winter, but we did enjoy eating homegrown lettuce all winter long. And here's a nice bowl of lettuce I picked, which I'll take in and wash, and we'll have a salad for lunch. And the last lesson I learned from my winter garden is that it is possible to grow food all year round here in Maryland. It's spring now. Well, it's still technically winter, but it feels like spring. I'm starting to put my seedlings out. I just planted some kale, some Swiss chard, and I have some cabbage seedlings inside. I'm going to try to get those in today. But now that I've done it once, I have the confidence of knowing I can do it again, and I will do it again. And I would encourage you to try a winter garden. That's all for now. Talk to y'all next week.